So this is Unit 2, Module 2, Lesson 1, Drawing Objects and Variables. There are a couple different things that I'm going to walk you through. The first thing I would like you to do is create an app in App Inventor called Drawing Objects and Variable Examples. Pause the video and do that. Hopefully I can move this. Okay, there we go. So in the app, what I would like you to do is click on Drawing and Animation. Click on that tab under the Palette column and drag a canvas to your screen. And then over here in the Properties column, I'd like you to set the canvas width to fill the parent and the height to whatever you want, maybe like 300 pixels. So go ahead and do that now. So pause the video and do that task. So the next thing we're going to do is I want to talk about the way the grid works in App Inventor. So the grid in App Inventor counts the upper left-hand corner as 0, and moving to the right is positive, and moving down is positive. There is no negative. Everything is positive from 0, 0 in the upper left-hand corner. So you cannot match this with any Cartesian coordinate system that you know, because it's positive to the right and positive down. So it's different than anything else that you've worked on in math class. So typically you want your canvas to fill the entire app screen, but sometimes you want to leave space at the bottom like we did. We set it to be like 300 pixels. That allows you to leave space for buttons or some type of other text box for you to put there. The canvas is a region that allows the user to interact with the screen in a way that is not a button or a text box. It's essentially a region that evaluates the touch of the user and tracks the touch of the user. So you can kind of think of it like a virtual mouse pad. And anything you put under it would be the buttons. So what I'm going to have you do is when the screen is initialized, write the method that says call canvas1.drawCircle. And you're going to put in 3 numbers, x, y, and r. X and y are the location of the circle. R is the radius of the circle, or the size of the circle. So pause the video and go ahead and do that now. Screen initialize is under the screen component, and the purple draw circle is underneath the Canvas 1 component. So you click on Canvas 1 and you will see all of the methods for Canvas 1. You click on Screen 1, you will see all the methods for Screen 1. To get to the blue numbers, you have to click on the math, and you'll be able to put in the numbers and then just type them into the boxes. So go ahead and do that now. I'll pause the video. So if you have an extra that says fill, the fill is either going to be, I believe it's a color, or is it true or false? Okay, so switch it to true or false. That essentially means, is the circle filled in or not? Is it a circle that just has an outline, or is it a circle that's filled in? But the center, x and y, should be fairly obvious, as well as the radius. It's the same thing. They just use slightly different notations for those. So if it looked a little different, I apologize. So once you've completed that, what I want you to realize is what this is going to do is draw a circle on your screen at location 1010 with a radius of 5 pixels. That's actually really small. 5 pixels is a very small circle. If you think about your canvas height, if we said the whole height was 300, 5 pixels is a very small piece of that. It'll draw a circle that has a diameter of 10 pixels. So it's about a 1/30th, if you want to think about it that way, the size of your screen. So it's fairly small. The screen initialize method means as soon as the app turns on and the canvas gets loaded, that circle is going to be drawn. So for the user experience, as soon as they turn on that app, there will be a circle on the screen. That's what initialize does. So now we're going to look at another method that we have for canvas. It's called touched. The canvas knows when it's touched. It has 3 parameters: X, Y, and whether or not you touched a particular sprite. We're not going to worry about this particular parameter yet. We're going to leave that alone. We're only going to be concerned with X and Y. So you're going to do a draw circle again. Only this time, what I would like you to do is click on the X, and you should see an orange box show up, a selection of different boxes. You want the one that says Get X, and you're going to drag that puzzle piece over and click it into Get X. You're going to do the same thing for the Y, drag that puzzle piece over and click it into Get Y. You can change your radius to 3, 5, whatever you want for now. We're going to update that later. And then the fill is up to you again, whether it's filled or not filled, that extra parameter that's not listed here that you guys have. So go ahead and do that and then pause the video. Or pause the video, then go ahead and do that. So one of the interesting things about this and Android is Android works on a multitude of devices. Some of those devices are multi-touch. Some of those devices are not. So depending upon your device, this method may have a different reaction. If it's single touch, it's only going to record where you touch the screen as soon as you touch the screen. Even if you touched it with your whole hand, it's only going to record one touch. If it's multi-touch, depending on how many touches it can recognize. Some of them limit it to 2, some of them might have 3, some of them might have 5, some of them might have 10. It depends on the screen, how many touches it can recognize. It will draw a circle for every single touch point. Because a touch occurs when you touch the screen but don't lift your finger. So that's a touch. A touch and then a lift and then another touch, that counts as 2 touches. So as soon as you lift your finger, that touch is done. If you're holding your finger on the screen, that touch is continuing. It's still only one event. It's not the same as touch and hold, and if it's measuring the amount of time you're touching the screen for. It only counts it as a single touch, no matter how long you hold your finger on there. Now, if you hold your finger and drag it, that's something different. That's a different type of action. We'll talk about those. So now what we're going to do is add an image sprite. Now, this is different than an image. It's in a different spot. An image, like we did with the last app, with the picture of the Martin Luther King picture, is stagnant. It doesn't do anything. An image sprite is an object that happens to be a picture. It can do stuff. It has actions. So what we're going to do is add an image sprite. It's under drawing and animation dropout. And this allows us to have a sprite that can react to touches. Let me make this bigger. Can react to touches. It can interact with other sprites or balls or other image sprites, and it can interact with the edge of the canvas. It can move according to its property values. Its appearance is that of an image specified by its picture property, and we can change whether it's visible or not. We have a lot more control over this thing, whereas an image is just an image. We could set its width and height, and that's about it. Can't really do anything else with it. So there's a big difference between an image sprite and an image. And it's important that whenever you look at the directions for any of these apps, that you pay attention to that. And if it says image sprite, you go to the section that's under the drawing and animation dropdown. So go ahead and drag in an image sprite. You can choose any image you want to put in there, but we don't want to make it huge. So if you need to resize it, set the width and height to be about 30. So any image you want to find and put in there is fine, but set the width and height to be about 30. That way we're all working with about the same size document. So go to Drawing and Animation, drag in an image sprite anywhere onto your canvas, and set the width and height to be 30, and pick a picture somewhere. Download it from somewhere, pull it off your computer, set the width and height to be 30. So pause the video while you do that. So the next step, we're going to talk about doing some math. And we're going to change your screen initialize statement. You cannot have two screen initialize statements. You only have one. So if you wanted to still draw the circle, you're going to add a command to it. But we're actually just going to get rid of that command since we now have the circles taken care of by the touch. We're going to have a new command that we're going to put in there. We're going to do some math in order to figure out where on the screen is the center. So for our screen center, we can actually get the width of the canvas. So if I want to find the center of the screen, it makes sense that I take the width of the canvas and divide it by 2. Don't do anything yet. If I take the width of the canvas and divide it by 2, that should tell me where the middle is. However, if I want to place an image at that middle, the image is very similar layout to the way the canvas is laid out, such that this upper left-hand corner is 0, 0. It doesn't place it at the center. So the image height is from this point here to this point here. So if I try to put this in the center, what would happen is I would get the corner of the image in the center. Not the whole image, the corner of it. So what really to happen is I want the middle of the image to be at the center. So I got to know where this middle of this image is. This middle of this image is at half the image width and half the image height. So I'm going to take, if this is my canvas here, and I have my center here of my canvas, rather than putting my image at 0, 0, I need to shift it so my image is centered over that dot. So I move 0, 0 to the left and up. And to move to the left and up, I'm going to use subtraction to move to the left and subtraction to move up. So I'm essentially shifting my image to the center of the screen. So the center of my image is at the center of my screen. Not every program works this way. So when you're designing in a program, you have to know whether or not the center of an image is where 0, 0 is, or the upper left-hand corner of the image is where 0, 0 is. That's important to know. If you don't know where that is, then you're going to have difficulty centering things on the screen. So the math that we're going to do here is when the screen 1 initializes, we're going to call an image sprite 1 method called move2, and it has an x and y location, and we're going to build a math operation. So you need the subtraction block first. You click that into the x, and then you click another subtraction block into the y. Then you need to do a division bar and another division bar. So we're going to subtract the result of a division. And then inside each of those divisions, we're going to put, for the numerator of this fraction, we're going to put canvas 1 width. And the denominator of the fraction, we're going to put a 2. For the numerator of this fraction, we're going to put image 1 height. And the denominator, we're going to put a 2. Now to make life easy, you can just duplicate this and swap it from width. Actually, I have this backwards, don't I? This should be width, and this should be height and height. Sorry, these are swapped. But you're just going to duplicate this and switch this from width to height and this from width to height. So that way it should read width, and it should read height and height. So just using the duplication feature allows you to not rewrite that. However, the order in which you build this is important. So start first with the subtraction, then do 2 division math operations, then in the numerator put the canvas width, and then in the denominator put the 2, and so forth. That will allow you to shift this so it is centered. So pause the video, go ahead and do that now, remembering that I have a slight mistake here. This should read width, and this should read height and height. So pause the video, go ahead and fix that.